But now let's turn to some of the other big news today. The Australian share market went into meltdown. $25 billion wiped off the ASX. And this, of course, follows concerns that Trump's tariff trade war could spark a recession in the US. Holly, I mean, this is, that Trump has always pointed to the markets as a measure of his success. So this should be troubling him.
And look, I think if you look even in Australia today, there's been a reaction here to what happened in the US. And the tariff wars are obviously playing into that. And I think when we look at what's happening in the Australian market, it doesn't look like we're going to get an exemption. We've been helped along by a few former political luminaries, we might say, this week.
Best interest of the country at heart, of course.
Absolutely. No relevance deprivation syndrome at all. But, these are the sorts of things that feed into our markets and confidence at home. But the reality is Australians have been in a per capita recession for almost 2 years. So this could actually make the cost of living crisis worse when Australians are already doing it incredibly tough.
And it does look now, Bronwyn, I mean, the trade tariffs are due to kick in on the 12th. Tomorrow, our time, Thursday, our time if it's in the US. So it doesn't look like the Albanese government's going to get an exemption here.
Well, I'm not surprised by that, because all the people who have been out there lobbying to say, look at us, we're really good guys, are people who've been out there beating up on Trump.
Yeah.
And he's got senior people surrounding him who are adamant about what behaviour has gone on. Now, for us, we want to protect it. But it's very interesting for me, who sat in that parliament for nearly 30 years, and to be involved in politics for much longer than that. I have sat and seen governments get elected saying we're going to cut waste, we're going to change the system, smaller government, and we're going to really go on a new track. And guess what? Nothing happens. Even Ronald Reagan's commission into waste, what do we find? Gold-plated toilet seats on an aircraft. So what Trump is doing is something entirely different. Robert Gottliebsen writes some very interesting articles in dealing with this, and the way he talks about the tariff being almost like a GST being imposed at a federal level. And you might remember that when the GST was imposed here in Australia, inflation leapt to 6%. But it was offset by tax cuts and the abolition of the wholesale sales tax, and it came back down again. And it did then change the way taxation operated. Here, what Trump is saying is he wants to see America reindustrialised. To do that, he can't do it without bringing down interest rates. The crash of the stock market coming down, also the bond rate, means that there is going to be pressure on the Federal Reserve to lower those interest rates. He's also going to have more money coming in from tariffs. And then he's going to say there's also this proposal that's now on the table from Doge, saying that there'll be a Doge dividend to consumers. So, yes, we don't like trade. I've been a free trader all my life.
Yeah.
But I know, I've looked at many articles that are written past the headline that says, why won't they give us an exemption? It's a much deeper question than that. If you're successful in reindustrialising the country, then there'll be lots of opportunities for us as well.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
As our manufacturing's continuing to shrink here, I mean, we had 150 manufacturing businesses go in the December quarter alone.
Indeed.
It's extraordinary.
Indeed. All right, before we go, let's look at the Teals. Freshwater polling today claiming that 4 of the 6 Teal MPs are at risk of losing their seats. And this is really because of the falling Green vote, because a lot of the Teals got up on preferences. So, Holly, if this is true, if you're seeing 4 Teals lose their seats, and I note that Allegra Spendo in Wentworth is not one of them, then, that starts to make an easier path for Dutton to win the election.
Yeah, it certainly clears a lot of the pathway that those seats, they were big Liberal seats and had always been strong Liberal seats, as Bronwyn is more than aware. And, for them to come back to the fold, I think would be a very good thing. I think a lot of people that live in those electorates have seen how ineffective these Teals are, that they're really just backed by Simon Holmes à Court and a mouthpiece for him. And I think let's just hope those polls are right, because to see the back of them will be a very good thing.
It's a very important thing to remember. There is no blue in teal.
No.
It is entirely a green movement, hanging off the... And really infected by a good dose of socialism.
Greens in Gucci jackets.
And really, many of them were elected because Australians didn't like Scott Morrison.
Correct.
You know, so and
That
those seats
gone.
didn't want to support Labor, so they went with this.
Well, and it'll be
safe
interesting
in the
if there's a
middle
hung parliament where it lands and where I think people are starting to see that they're looking at another Oakeshott kind of candidate.
I think there needs to be a lot of pressure now on the Teals to clearly say that if there's a hung parliament,
this is what we'll do.
This is what they're going to win.
Absolutely,
And
their
electorates, pressure on them to say that.
Their electorates deserve to know. Their local voters deserve to know.
Indeed.